Hey folks, Tyler Edlin here, and I'm back again. Now, I'm an artist, an illustrator, now instructor, and I've been dabbling in art my entire life, which at this point has been a while. So, I've done something extra special today. It's been requested before numerous times over the years, and I just didn't have the proper equipment and setup, and I didn't know where a lot of the art was. But thanks to your support, of course, on Patreon, I was able to get some lights. I set them up, and I phoned my mom. I did some digging in the attic. I got a lot of art. It's not all of it. I tossed a lot of it. A lot of it didn't survive moves, but I do have a lot of art from 94 to 2010, and we're going to look at that. All right, so let's begin. The only piece I have here from when I was a child is it's in one of my dad's old office notebooks. So I used to grab these things because he had an office in our house growing up, and essentially what I used to do is just draw Sonic the Hedgehog stories and stage designs in these things. It never really filled things up, and they were all nonsense on loads and loads of lines. I could go through these page by page, but I mean, largely they're just children's, drawings, all from side view, right? Because you're 6 and 7, you have no kind of comprehension really of what perspective or anything is. But yeah, I just kind of come up with stories, remixing, stuff you'd read about in the instruction manual or watch on the show. The best drawing in here, I did a color. So I had like red pens and like a few color ones. So yeah, that's why the Robotnik character there, he got a little bit of color. But I mean, I only filled it up to like 100, page 100. My fan art period continued. It was just me. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. This is 2000. So this is actually high school. But I drew this character Jin from Tekken. Yeah, I was trying to learn muscles and stuff. I knew absolutely nothing, about shading. And I think it was probably just another copy of another drawing. Most of them were, at that point. Like, again, kind of copying the old Final Fantasy VII art, with Cloud. I still like drawing Cloud today. I was working on one earlier this year. Didn't post it, didn't finish it, didn't like it either. But yeah, you can see, like, when I was trying to really learn a little bit of shading in 98, 99, but I had no idea what I was doing. I noticed a few other advanced kids were kind of doing that, and I was just trying to copy or emulate what they were doing. There was no internet or anything, so it's literally the people next to you in class that you could kind of piggyback off of at that time. Here's another one of my favorite games of the series. I did a Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, kind of like more of like a comic style. Again, it's very detailed. There's no shapes or value control. It was just kind of rendering and some light shading. But yeah, it was a fun little piece. I always liked those games quite a bit. Oh yeah, look at this one. This used to be on my mom's fridge. Dead or Alive. Did some Bikini Babes from that game. Even added a sunset background. That might be the first time I ever did like a full scene. That and this Luke versus Vader picture. Now let's zoom in there and really appreciate that face on Luke Skywalker there. It's amazing. I don't know. It looks like he's jolly. He just ate a donut. I mean, back then you don't really realize about expressions and any kind of that subtlety. You're just kind of like trying to survive the drawing. Here's another Final Fantasy. This is from 97. I actually wrote the date on it. You got Cloud, Vincent, Barrett there. Got Red 13, had enough room to squeeze him in. Oh, I was so proud of that one. Here's an original character I drew. He has what I'd call the Scorpion Launcher, which is like a missile / flamethrower, and he has a samurai sword. So, yeah, this guy is full of wind. Here's another Sega picture from 99. I painted this in February. Right, so this is Panzer Dragoon. I still play Panzer Dragoon. I played Panzer Dragoon earlier this year on the Switch, and I could get into a whole video about Panzer Dragoon. It's basically this game really kind of set in this Dune-like setting. Mobius, John Gerard Mobius, did a lot of the original work for it. It triggered my imagination in '96 like nothing else ever has. I love that franchise to death. There's a bunch of pictures kind of like this. This is another original character, kind of, I think the earlier version of that cyborg guy with, I see he has the regular flamethrower there. We upgraded it in picture 2 with the rockets. He has like a bazooka on his back in that one, which is funny, and he's got an exoskeleton with wires. Yeah, the proportions are all right, but yeah, it's just kind of probably homeroom doodles. This is '97. This is that guy. I did my own version, complete with like crotch armor, Apocalypse, from the X-Men. He was always my favorite villain pretty much in that show. He's got crotch armor and boob armor. So this guy is fantastic. I could never planned it out. So he's just kind of facing, he goes against the rules of framing. He's just facing outside of that. Yeah, that's special. Now here's the first drawing I ever did that featured landscapes and perspective to any kind of capacity. This is '97. Maybe 6. I did my first cityscape. So see, the perspective is largely inconsistent. It's non-existent, but it does have a sense of depth, and a little bit of like MC Escher like. What a special piece. This one also, I have apparently a cliffside road. It's got complete with bridge, sailboat, and crystals in the water there. Oh, it has everything, and it also has the sun with a little bit of shading. So 98, I was still sorting things out. This one's a little more suspect. A Chrono Cross, right? Another broad. Okay, you can tell what it's like being a teenage boy. Like your imagination, and when you discover girls, maybe a few other things, that's all that's on your mind. Now here's my night set. I did Nights into Dreams. So this is '96. Did a little bit of coloring on there. Trying to figure it out. The old Sega game. And then there's like a kind of cross picture between the evil and the good version of Knights. Now we'll get into the like early 2000s to 2006 college stuff that I used to do, early art school and painting and digital exploration. So one thing I do have was again more Soul Reaver art from there's no date on it, but it's on these like little canvas panels. It's pretty actually hard. It's got like a finish on it. It's like a little bit of a gloss, and he's like stealing souls. And I got Kane here without an eye. It's kind of like a lighter picture, but yeah, it's one of my first. I think it's acrylic. Hard to tell though. Hard to tell. Like here's like a mini watercolor from I think it was in a basic illustration class. Bear in a forest. It was fun. I got to go back at some point and do traditional painting, but I haven't done any in 11 years at this point. So if you guys want to see me fail miserably at that sometime, maybe we can make that happen. Let me know below. Here is a Craig Mullins study from 2008. So I'm copying his digital paintings in watercolor. Look at that. That would be a thing to try. And here's gouache. I can never control gouache. But here's like this very Call of Duty-esque sort of soldier image with, the dude's pulling out. Again, I think my compositional skills, I'm aware of them at this point. So I'm actually like trying to either tell a story or have the pictorial plane or space make sense. And all right, so a bunch of little paintings there. I did a photography class too, back in the day. Some of these are very dusty. Here is my grandfather. So I photographed him in a very iconic way. He might be like 95 there, and he's working. So that's kind of how we roll. I'm gonna work until I die, or I physically can't see or use my hands anymore. Here is a pen sketch from 2006. So this is after I had discovered Feng Zhu and some of his stuff, and I was trying to draw robots and things in a very concept-like sort of way. But it wasn't until 2005 or 6, like I discovered that was a thing. Here's an original character I called Rogue Hunter. So he's definitely inspired by the Panzer Dragoon series again. little bit of shading on there. Still like, yeah, a bit of a mess. You won't see that anywhere else on the internet, but okay, now I have pretty much a record of my actual first fully fledged digital art painting. I don't have the original. I don't even think I kept that. But what I do have is the proof on a canvas. So I used to send them to the print shop, then give you a proof to see how it would look when you blow it up, much bigger. So I do a digital painting here and then get it printed on canvas. So here it is, my first fully digital illustration. We got SWAT guys with samurai helmets, beam swords, this Ninja Gaiden looking fella with a red flowy Devil May Cry robot. I don't know. This is just like everything I was into at the time. My first digital picture. What an insane little place that is. It's got a city in the background. We have the rain. I was in over my head. Like, oh my God. I think I spent weeks on that picture. Another piece of photography of my father, swinging a hammer. My family owns a blacksmith shop. And that's what I did until 2010. I worked as a steel, and I worked in the steel shop, blacksmithing, iron. Here's me, my grandfather, and my father. So I got a hammer. That was 2007, this one. So, that's what I just, go to work, push, move steel, drill holes, fabricate stuff, do art classes in the afternoon, study art in the evening, until I got a little bit better. Here's a time here, while on that note, let me put this against a black, but it's glass. I did a glass, I don't even know what you'd call it, but sandblasting. I did my own little plaque swinging a hammer when I had a more definitive hairline. Fun fact. So I have a couple little sketchbooks that I never filled out. I was never much of a sketchbook guy, but see, here's one that's super filthy because I found these in an attic. And an Apple sticker because I used to give them. But yeah, my first would be, here's a nice completed detail version of that. I have no idea the date of this one, but here's their backyard with like a little greenhouse. And what they're growing, but there's that. Anatomical studies from 2008. So this I'm not going to go through this. It's not even filled, but it's like basic head and skeletal structural notes. Used to go through that a lot back in the anatomy days. See, I tried to do a little bit more of a delicate shading on that one. You can see the difference when you actually sit down and you like try to make better shading rather than rushing through. That's what I did. I'd rush through these studies trying to like do a whole book of an anatomy drawing, and that's not the way to do it. Slow down. You got to slow down when it comes to studies. Like here's more of those. All right, so I do like these overlays. So I'd print out like these master drawings. I forgot the name of the artist. Sorry. But then I do these overlays, right, with tracing paper and try to break down the muscles. It's trying to draw these mechanical bio monsters with a little bit of watercolor on there. See, there's a lot of nonsense in this book, but I was really working most of the time on composition. There is an occasional character design, again like this. Very Dune looking, very Panzer Dragoon looking. Just of like some character designs. I think this dude name was Jack. He's just like a tough dude in a tight t-shirt. Another Panzer Dragoon style sketch. So see, even like 2007, 2008. Yeah, that's 2008. That game still was with me. And then, there was a lot of these, not a lot of them survived from 2008, where I'd go around the city. I'd go around Boston, Massachusetts, and do watercolors of the landscape, and the buildings and the park. So, this is late fall. This might be November of 2008. Just do the bridges, do the parks. This one's a coffee shop watercolor, just in the actual coffee shop doing the stuff. I can't imagine even going, well, in 2020, right? It's very hard to kind of do that sort of thing nowadays. Fish, because fish are just always difficult. But I like fish. Fish have got great design languages in them. You can turn fish into missiles. You can turn fish into alien towers. You can turn fish into creatures. Fish are great. Learn fish and insects. Learn them inside out. Here's a bit of an update on the sketch that I did. So this one's a little bit better. The composition at least works for the most part. And the lighting I am starting to figure out. I still really had no idea the difference between direct lighting, ambient lighting, any of that stuff. I went through art college. They never broke any of that down, like systematically and where and when and why. They just didn't do that. It was all observational work with like little actual explanation on when, where, and why to use these things, which is why some of you guys got the Patreon for, because I'm making it an all-in-one art course. Here's some actual really nice, I think they're really nice. What do you guys think? Watercolor flowers. These are fun. I actually would, in a perfect world, love to spend a weekend doing more of something like that. Oh, a cityscape in watercolor. Look at that. A little more inventive, this is gotta be like, yeah, 2008. So I'm starting to connect the dots about a lot of things at that point. You know, with this one, you can kind of really see it in that one. Watercolor Nausicaa inspired forest. No depth, little compositional awareness in this one. And watercolors, once you go too far, it's overworked. Clearly the result of that, you know, is a lizard on a tree. Again, it's just a study, nothing more than that. Here is a 2008. I think that's a different shot of that same city we just looked at. So I always recommend nowadays, and still did back then, do things in sets. Do the same subject, do multiple versions of it, multiple paintings of it, switch the lighting, change the angle. Here's a fantasy character I was working on in 2009. This on this like Japanese kind of illustration paper, I think. Yeah, it's got Japanese characters on it, but yeah, character design, pen and ink. Something like kind of like Dave Raposa would do nowadays on his Instagram, but actually good. But yeah, I've tried a little bit of everything, as you guys can see. Jack of all trades. Here's a ship design on traditional paper. You can see all the old marker etching, building up the shapes, and you know, kind of planning it out. Before there was the undo button in Photoshop. Here's a bit of a cleaner version of that. Look at that. Very old school. You can even see the marker bleeding through on the backside. The Prismacolors. That's what they were. Here's another one from that series. The tension is rising on that one. But yeah, I think that's it for there. And then there's just like an occasional oil painting again from like doing those still lifes, right? Like very dusty, but you can see like I can kind of control the brushwork in some places, like good edges, but then like in other areas, the edges, you know, are not so great. And the materials on the box here are definitely the worst. The proportion on that leather is tough, but I like the glass and the fruit. I think that's the biggest success here. The folds and the drapery, definitely the worst case on that one. And then this early little digital print, 2010, of basically what's Hyrule Warriors. Like I was drawing Hyrule Warriors before, almost like 8 years before that was an actual game. I just wanted Zelda with large scale army battles. So I'll be getting that game on the Switch this holiday season. Will anybody else? The Breath of the Wild prequel. So that's, yeah, I had the idea first, Nintendo, just saying. And that wraps it up. I hope you guys enjoyed a look at my older art.